This is Inside Mside, your favorite podcast for all things Morningside. Hear stories from students, alumni, faculty, and more about what makes the Morningside experience so special.
Hello and welcome in to another edition of the Inside Mside podcast here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We certainly thank you for tuning in. And coming up in this episode, we're going to talk with Dr. Chase Privett, an assistant professor of political science. Dr. Chase Privett, he's a California guy, and today we're going to talk about the Morningside Democracy Project and getting students to get their voter registration in. The elections are coming up here in town and some state competitions as well. So we'll delve into that as well. Dr. Privett, welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and then dig into what the Morningside Democracy Project is, please.
Sure thing. Happily. My name's Dr. Chase Privett. I'm the assistant professor of political science here at Morningside. I'm here at Morningside. I'm in my second year, so I'm pretty new. I got my PhD from UCLA out on the West Coast. So, like Zach said, I'm a California guy. I grew up in California my whole life, born and raised in Bakersfield, California. And now I'm excited to be here at Morningside teaching American politics, things like that to our Morningside students. This is a program put on by the Morningside Civic Union here at Morningside. The Morningside Civic Union has been around for many, many years, started by Dr. Patrick McKinley, also in the political science program with me. And basically the idea here is that students are coming into colleges, not just Morningside, but colleges all over the country. They're moving in from different cities, different states. But a lot of times the thing that slips through the cracks, so to speak, is that people don't update their voter registration, right? You're a brand new college kid here at Morningside. This is going to be your home here in Sioux City for the next 4 years. And we want to make sure that your voice is heard, that you are being truly represented here in Sioux City. And so our goal is to encourage all incoming first-year students especially, but any student who might have moved or changed their address during their sophomore, junior, or senior year to update their voter registration, because literally just moving across the street could potentially change what voter precinct you're in. And so we really want to make sure that people they've updated their voter registration and that they're ready to vote come election season coming up.
Year by year, how many students usually do change your voter registration?
That's a great question. That's a really, really great question. Usually it ranges anywhere between, I'd say 50 is going to be on the lower end, but we've had as many as 300-400 students update their voter registration during a presidential election year, especially, which is also why we're not just encouraging incoming first-year students to do it, because it's possible that those sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they might not have updated it in the first place, but they want to update their voter registration now, especially because historically Iowa has been a swing state. It's been very competitive, and maybe it's not so competitive anymore, but we still want to give people a chance to have that voice in local elections, right? Because local elections are really going to impact our day-to-day lives.
Do you see students being engaged on a year like this where elections are still important, but it's not a presidential year?
As we would expect, because it's not a presidential election year, unfortunately, engagement in politics is down. Now, we did see a little bit of an uptick in recent years, or in recent months, I should say, especially because there's a lot of, dare I say, controversy happening in the White House, right? And so some people really like to talk about those kinds of controversies, whether they're pro-Donald Trump or anti-Donald Trump. That's not for me to say, but some people really enjoy having those kinds of conversations. And so we do see some increase in engagement just because of the, current state of the Trump presidency. But also I would say that especially, certain events in recent months have gotten more more conversations going with regards to politics. There are a lot of students that are involved in different community organizations off campus. I've seen a lot of students volunteering their time, going to community events. I actually encourage my students in my United States government class to go and get involved in their community and to show up to citywide events like the Sioux City Art Splash that happened a couple weeks ago, right? Because to be a good citizen in this democracy, it's about knowing your neighbors and getting involved. And so I do see students who are volunteering with the SPCA or that are volunteering their time with different, homeless shelters or warming shelters, especially religious organizations like churches. We see a lot of students getting involved in religious organizations like that. And so we're seeing our students everywhere, but of course the community leaders, they're always asking for more because our students, they bring that energy, they bring that life to these organizations that really make the community thrive. And I'm like a proud dad, right? You see them out in the community and it's like, yeah, you're doing the thing. You are getting involved and you are becoming a good citizen yourself, and building those kinds of connections help you not just today, but it helps you make lifelong connections.
How much do you encourage your students, or Dr. McKinley in his classes, or Dr. Bass in his classes, to get out there and be civically engaged?
All the time. And that is one of the main purposes of the Morningside Civics Union, is we really want our students to get involved in the community, whether that be politically. I mean, the Morningside Civics Union is a nonpartisan organization, but any kind of dialogue, whether it be conservative dialogue, liberal dialogue, we want people involved. We want people talking about the issues. I will say that in my United States government class, I have my students get involved in 3 activities that are considered community engagement, 3 activities that are considered university engagement, getting involved here just at Morningside, but then 3 other activities that are politically motivated, political engagements in that way. And last year, I taught a campaigns and elections class where I had students volunteer to door knock for the Kamala Harris campaign, and I had other students who volunteered to phone bank and call on behalf of the Donald Trump campaign. The goal here is not partisan. It's not that one party is right and one party is wrong. It's just that you are making your voice heard and that you are getting out and engaging with your community and getting involved. One of the issues that we have right now, one of the main issues that we talk a lot about in political science in my field, is that we have this epidemic of polarization. People are as divided as they've been for over 100 years, right? Republicans won't talk to Democrats. Democrats won't talk to Republicans. And our goal here is that instead of shutting down, because some people think that one way to solve this polarization crisis is to shut down and not talk about politics. I think actually taking the opposite approach is better. You want to get involved. You want to be able to talk about these issues and articulate these points, not so you can change someone else's mind or that they can change your mind, but that we can have that understanding for one another, right? And that's really what the Morningside Civic Union, that's what the Morningside Democracy Project is all about. We want to create good democratic citizens that are going to talk about politics and not hate one another for whatever views that each other might have.
You're a Dodgers fan. The World Series is just ended, and we're taping this before the World Series has started. What's it like as a Dodger fan being in Iowa, seeing what the Dodgers have done this year? And you've got a really impressive bobblehead collection too, if you want to talk about that too. But even as a Giants fan, you have a ton of Dodgers bobbleheads in your office. I'm even impressed by it. But
thank you.
What's it like following your hometown teams from afar?
Because I'm a baseball fan first and foremost, it's amazing, right? My whole life until 2020, that was 25 years of heartbreak for me, right? I probably saw the Dodgers make the playoffs more than I saw them miss it. And But at the same time, in my life, the Giants had won 3 World Series in 5 years, right? I mean, like, And there's nothing that made me angrier than seeing the Giants win 3 in 5 years. And so this is why now I get to relish in all this glory. It is interesting, though, to your point about being in Iowa, because LA is the big city, right? It's kind of, they're like the foe in a lot of ways, right? New York and LA, in middle America, New York and LA, they're the bad guys. And, you know, you're hearing this a lot right now with Dodger fans, but we're enjoying being a little bit of the evil empire right now.
On a halfway more serious note, how did you find Morningside from Southern California?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I was coming from UCLA. UCLA is a huge school, 40,000 people, right? Tons and tons of students. I'd say my smallest class was about 20, which is, you know, what you would expect here at Morningside. My largest class was 419. A little bit different. A little bit
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I was in grad school, I knew that I really love to learn. I love the research aspect of it, but I really felt this calling for teaching. There was something about seeing that light bulb turn on behind students' eyes that I just couldn't get enough of. It was irresistible to me. And so I knew coming out of UCLA, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends, they were moving on to go to places like Georgia Tech or American University. These are big, big schools. But I knew, and they always knew, that I was going to end up at a small liberal arts school because I really wanted to make a difference in my students' lives through teaching. And so I basically scoured through all of the different websites to check and see which ones were hiring. First of all, you always have to check out for who's hiring. And I found Morningside, and I'm like, what's this little school all about? And I looked into it, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. And I'm so lucky that you all thought I was a perfect fit for you guys too.
What were your first impressions of Sioux City when you came here last academic year?
Yeah, so my first impressions ever of Sioux City was cold because when I came out for my interview, it was right after the biggest snowstorm of the year. This was January of 2024.
Okay.
They probably about 3 feet of snow had dumped in like a 10-day period, and it was negative temperatures.
I'm sure you've never seen snow before that.
I mean, I've seen snow. I've never seen negative temperatures before. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane. Now, I'll say once I was here and I had the job and I was flying in to like look at different places to maybe rent or buy a home, I'd say my first impressions of Sioux City, and this might sound a little bit odd, it just immediately felt like my hometown of Bakersfield. I lived in LA for 11 years, but my true hometown is in Bakersfield, California. I like to say it's like the biggest little city because it's a town of 350,000 people, massive in terms of population, but there's farms and agriculture and oil rigs as far as the eye can see. Right? There's a certain kind of people, you know, the kind of food. It's just like culturally, Sioux City is just like my hometown. So like coming here for the first time, I'm like, oh, this is just like what Bakersfield was like when I was growing up. But the second thing that I noticed outside of just like what Sioux City looks like, it's the people. The people are so nice, right? Like never before had I been in a situation where no matter what, when I walked through a door, someone would hold a door open for me for 2 minutes as I'm approaching from the other side of the parking lot. It's that Iowa nice. It's that Iowa nice. And I'm not saying that Californians are rude. It's a different kind of mentality, right? Iowans are going to go out of their way to be polite and to reach out a hand to you. And I remember my first time being here, I got a chance to meet with 5 faculty members who, mind you, this was in June. They were on vacation. They did not have to talk to me. And I got to have a barbecue. I got to stay in some of their homes. It was just a wonderful, wonderful experience to be able to immediately find community. And that's that's what Sioux City, that's what Morningside is all about, right? It's about finding community, and I was able to find it.
We'll wrap it up with this. What's next for the Morningside Civic Union here for the rest of the semester, maybe even the rest of the school year, if you want to plug that as well?
An event that just happened right before this podcast was released is we had an event. It was a Japanese cultural event where we made rice balls. This was traditional rice balls with Dr. Greg Gelcher and his wife Yumiko Gelcher, who is from Japan. And so we had this cultural exchange that we got to participate in, which was fantastic. Let's see. Recently, we have been to the University of South Dakota to see the South Dakota Supreme Court in session and see them ruling on some cases. Coming up in spring, though, we have a lot of exciting things that are coming up. Let's see. Of course, starting in spring, this is when election season really begins. And so we're hoping to get some candidates, some congressional candidates to come and speak on campus, nonpartisan. So we'd like to see people from both sides of the aisle just to see different perspectives related to politics. And I'll say pie in the sky, don't quote me on this, but our goal is that within the next 3 years, we're going to try to get a spring break trip out to Washington, D.C. That's our pie in the sky. That's our dream, is to get the Morningside Civic Union to see the politics in action on Capitol Hill.
What would that be like to be able to pull off a spring break trip like that?
Oh, it would be amazing, right? Like it would provide students a new perspective outside of just Sioux City, Iowa, or even Des Moines, right? Politics happening in Washington is very different than Des Moines. So I think we would certainly be able to see all the sites. The Supreme Court has open sessions that the public is allowed to go into, to go and watch. Of course, we would see congressional Capitol Hill tours. And, the nice thing about Iowa is it's small enough where we can directly talk to Randy Feenstra or whoever is going to be his replacement, assuming that he doesn't run for Congressional District 4, which is his plan as of right now. But we'll be able to have a conversation with him or whoever his replacement is to maybe get a behind-the-scenes tour of the Capitol. And that's really what we're hoping for. We want to get, we want to see parts of D.C. that you couldn't just see if you went on vacation.
That'll do it for this edition of the Inside Mside podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe right here on YouTube, or if you're listening online audio only, make sure you like and subscribe and leave some feedback as well. And we can't wait for our next episode on the Inside Mside podcast. For the university engagement staff and everybody else here at Morningside University, I'm Zach James. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Inside Mside podcast.